Chapter 16 Henry's Place. Hadley sat back in the leather-bound chair, looking warmly at the photo of his wife and children situated on the desk in front of him. Reminded him of the days as a young boy growing up in Tortola near Cane Garden Bay, then working in the bars and restaurants along the beach. Watched as his parents struggled, as the tourists came and went, splashing their cash as if there was no tomorrow. This was when he made a promise to himself that when he had children, they would not go short of anything as his family had. The shortage of work and minimal pay was the reason he had gotten into crime to start with. At first, starting with petty stuff, from overcharging customers and pocketing the difference, to stealing bags left unattended under the rows of yellow parasols on the beach. Once he got an appetite for a better life, nothing could stop him as he rose through the ranks, until he now found himself running the operation on St. Halb. There was a knock at the door.
Come in.
A couple of men and Sam entered the room, taking a seat on the two sofas across from where Hadley now sat.
Tell me, gentlemen, when will the next shipment be ready for export?
If all goes well, in the next few days, it is starting to cut and bag the crab today.
Thank you, please leave us now, I wish to talk to Sam alone.
With this, the two men who'd come in with Sam got up and left.
So, what's the latest from your three friends?
Nothing, since I last saw them back at my place. These three are professionals, so we need to start taking extra precautions around here.
Any idea when they might try something?
From what Henry said to me regarding a function to be held here next week, I would say any time between now and next Friday, at a rough guess, possibly next Wednesday or Thursday.
Need to do me a favor and go back to your place and find out if our friends have been about.
Sure, I will go in a minute.
Once Sam had left the room, Hadley picked up the phone located on his desk and spoke for around 20 minutes to someone in London about the next shipment of marijuana. After leaving the office, Sam walked past a reception room where two people were slumped on two soft chairs, their eyes fixed on a program on the television. From the looks of them, a gunshot wouldn't get them moving. On the way past the kitchen, he looked inside for no reason, but that habit two women dressed in chef's whites could be seen preparing meals. On the right, just past the kitchen, he located a small wooden door which led to the cellar. Stone steps made their way down to several rooms. Most were full of wine bottles fermenting, each room protected by a secure iron gate, apart from one which had been broken into the lock laying on the floor. Towards the rear was a door, and behind it, the tunnel to the warehouse giving it a firm tug confirmed it wasn't locked. Next to this, another solid door secured by a thick plank resting on two metal hooks, one on each side of the door. Didn't need to look inside. Sam knew who lay behind this door. It was Abbie. He did not want to face her, so he started to leave quietly as possible when his leg hit the table in the center of the room.
I know you're out there, and you better fucking let me out.
Followed by multiple hard hits on the inside, as Abbie tried in vain to smash down the door. He walked away without saying a word, making his way to the second floor and into one of the bedrooms, exiting a few minutes later with a 9mm Browning like the one he had used in the British Army. Passed several people standing near the door smoking, and made his way to the warehouse to collect two men who would accompany him back to his house, looking for any signs that Simon, George, and I had been back to the house. Calling over two people who were busy doing nothing in the store, they all jumped in a jeep and drove towards the gatehouse. The gate was being protected by two men. One of them held the lead of a German shepherd, which started to growl at Sam as he passed. Inside the gatehouse, three people were seated behind an old wooden desk situated a little back from a counter which faced the door, drinking bottles of some type of alcohol. In contrast, four others disappeared out the back to return with the remaining German shepherds and Rottweilers. After traveling a short distance, one of them turned around and shouted out,
"What's the time?"
10:35, came the reply.
"Thanks, see you in an hour."
They headed to the vineyard to give the dogs time to run around out of the kennels. Once they reached the corner of the field near the two water tanks, they let them off their leashes. This was a routine they completed every day. Let the pooches off, and walk around the perimeter for 1 hour before placing the leash back on and returning them to the gatehouse. Hadley walked at a slow pace over to the warehouse to check on the progress of the packing. The store was almost entirely full of oak wine barrels that were being stored to mature, stacked in neat rows on shelving which reached the top of the building. Towards the back wall was a semi-automatic bottling plant which ran off a separate generator located on the left near the door. Center on the floor in front of filled barrels, marijuana was piled high, which had been freshly cultivated from the vineyard that day. A group of people were taking the leaves of the plants and repacking them into sacks to be wrapped. Another trio of people were then wrapping them in thick white plastic before stuffing them into oak barrels, ready to be loaded onto the lorry and shipped off as wine from the St. Halb vineyard.
So, how many do we have prepared?
Asked Hadley.
Around 30.
Excellent, we'll be able to fulfill the complete marijuana plant consignment in the next couple of days.
No problem, boss.
Looked at his watch, then returned back to the house. It was lunchtime. He was feeling hungry upon entering the dining room. His second in command, Claire, a well-built woman, 6 foot of solid muscle and X-forces, was already sitting at the table, along with Carol and her 2 children. Just because he was away from his usual home, didn't mean he couldn't be civilized. Besides, Henry had excellent taste in dining furniture and silver cutlery, shame to let them go to waste. A young woman in her early 20s, dressed in chef's whites, poured wine for everyone, including the kids. One time, Carol allowed them to drink a glass of wine with their meals as it was customary on the island. A delicious lunch was served with polite conversation. Not once was there any mention of the activities taking place at the property. It was taken as read. Everybody knew what was going on.
My apologies, you will have to excuse Claire and me, we have work to discuss.
Back in the office, Hadley sat behind his desk and paused for a moment or two before saying,
You managed to get Abbie to tell you anything about the men Henry sent, plus where they collect weapons on this island?
Not yet, but she will after a little persuasion of the physical type.
Leave that to you, but the shipment goes out in around 3 days from now. We're going to need info by then if we are going to protect our assets.
Meanwhile, Sam and the other 2 had arrived back at his house. He chuckled to himself when he noticed vehicle tracks leading up to the house, knowing that Abbie would go mental when she saw someone had driven up to her home, but that wouldn't be an issue anymore. Part of the deal he made with Hadley was for her to disappear, enabling him to create a new life with Carol and the 2 children, the youngest of which was his. He had met her over 4.5 years ago when they came to the island, in the bar on Joshua Boulevard. To start with, nothing serious. He was seeing her when Abbie was working at Henry's place or when he told Abbie that he was at work. Knowing that she would not agree to divorce when Hadley offered him a way out of the marriage, he decided instantly.
You go around the back and come through the back entrance, I'll go through the front. Be careful, we don't know if anyone else is home. On the off chance that someone is here, I will play innocent and ask if they have seen Abbie, as I've been looking everywhere for her.
A search of the house found no people dead or alive, apart from the bits of body and blood sprayed all over the walls of the living room. One of the men was throwing up at the sight of all the carnage.
Stop throwing up in my house, take it outside. While you're at it, check the garage for signs of anyone.
Okay.
Came through a muffled hand, as they tried to hold back the sickness that was now engulfing both his mouth and hand. The boys had been back and guessed that Abbie would be missing and that on the wall must be one of Hadley's men. As expected, they had picked up all the stuff when they disappeared for a few days. Might as well go and check the 2 idiots outside.
Stay there, Sam. We have discovered a suspect package next to the sliding door. John has found a wire leading from it.
Where the fuck is he?
He's tied some string to the wire and gone behind that wall to pull the line. Wants to find out if the package is anything of concern.
Sam was about to shout.
Stop, don't yank on that cord.
When the deafening sound of a massive explosion, which could probably be heard by Simon and George, along with flames which reached at least 5 feet high into the sky, came from where John used to be.
Don't touch anything else, come back with me now.
Meanwhile, back at Henry's place, Claire and 2 women made their way to the cellar for a conversation with Abbie.
This is what's going to happen.
Looking at the other 2.
You lift off the wooden restraint once the door is open. We all take hold of her. Remember, she will put up a fight.
A split second after the door opened, they all raced in and grabbed Abbie, a well-placed kick to the back of the knees forcing her to the floor. Claire moved to within inches of Abbie's face.
Right, you bitch, I need some information. I don't believe in the easy or hard way, so this is going to be the latter.
A powerful punch landed on the side of Abby's face, knocking her sideways. The only thing preventing her from hitting the ground was the two people holding her by her arms. Through gritted teeth,
I don't know what you want from me. Even if I did, I wouldn't fucking tell you. Wait till my husband finds out about this. He's going to kill you.
Claire laughed loudly.
You idiot, who do you think told us where you would be? Sam is upstairs with Hadley.
Several harder punches were landed, one to the face and the other in the stomach. Abby gave out a loud agonizing scream. She had never felt this amount of pain, or been treated in this way.
Where are Steve, Simon, and George?
The last thing I heard was they were planning to stamp all over your fat ugly face. Let me go, and I'll give you a preview, bitch.
Throw her back in there, we will try again later, I've other stuff to complete.
The door slammed shut and locked again. Once again, Abby was left alone in the cold, dark room of the cellar, crouching down in the corner, cupping her hand around her now swollen face. Tears started to roll down her face as she grasped to work out how she had found herself locked away like an animal. Why Sam, the man she had been married to for many years, would do this to her? Why does everything I touch go wrong?